I'm Isa Suarez in London, and this is CNN.
Hello again, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me for this special CNN coverage. I'm Frederica Whitfield in Atlanta alongside my colleague John Berman in Lviv, Ukraine. Right now, major developments in western Ukraine. Just moments ago, CNN crews hearing explosions and seeing large plumes of smoke in Lviv, where our John Berman is. John, let me talk to you because we heard the sirens in the middle of your live shot. You heard the booms later, and now we're seeing this billowing smoke. About how far does it appear that smoke is coming from, where you are, your backdrop?
We think a few kilometers at this point. It's a few kilometers to the northeast of us. The smoke rising from behind that hill. There's a lot of different possible things back there. We know there's a fuel depot. We know there is a rail junction back there. 3 explosions, trying to get more information about what might have been hit there. Lviv, which is in the far western part of the country, it's a city of about 800,000 people. The population has swelled in recent weeks because this is where refugees have been coming to safety. They've been coming here to get safe and then maybe move on to other European nations, Poland and whatnot. There haven't been any strikes in the downtown area at all over the last month. This would be the 3rd strike in the general area, certainly the closest to the city, and perhaps significant today, in broad daylight, mind you. Look, you can hit a target at night when you know there might not be people around, but an attack in broad daylight within the few hours when President Biden is set to speak to deliver a major address just over the border in Poland, 400 kilometers away, but only an hour to the Polish border from the city of Lviv right now. So it would seem something like a message, perhaps, from the Russians as we again continue to look at this smoke billowing behind us, and we are trying to get more information. We'll bring that to you as soon as it comes. In the meantime, as I said, President Biden just over the border in Poland right now. So far, he's been meeting with Ukrainian refugees and aid workers who are there. In a couple of hours, the president will deliver what the White House is billing as a major speech at Warsaw's historic Royal Castle. CNN's Caitlin Collins, our chief White House correspondent, is in Warsaw for us. Caitlin, the president's already had an emotional day with much more to come.
Absolutely, John. This is the first time President Biden came face-to-face with these Ukrainian refugees. As these air raid sirens are going off in these blasts where you are, just about 200 miles away from us here in Warsaw, the president has been focused on this humanitarian aspect of this invasion and the people who have been forced to flee from their homes, sometimes without their fathers, their brothers, their grandfathers, who are still in Ukraine, of course, fighting the Russian forces that are causing this invasion, attempting to invade and take over cities. And President on their backs, and you saw they're at this football stadium here in Warsaw. It's been turned into a processing center for these refugees. You could see Jose Andreas in the background there. They brought the World Central Kitchen here. They've been helping feed a lot of these refugees. They've been in other places in Ukraine as well, and present where they lived.
You see this, and you're dealing every day with Vladimir Putin. I mean, look at what he's done to these people. What does it make you?
A war criminal, a killer, a pure thug, and now calling him a butcher for what has happened. And President Biden was saying, you were watching him go through the crowds, and he picked up a little girl at one point. He clasped hands with another woman, put his hands on her shoulder, was just hearing their stories and telling them how brave they were. And he was saying that some of the little kids, they just wanted a hug. In Ukraine, they were not allowed to leave Ukraine, as many of the others did, the millions that did and came here. And John,
over there. I'm afraid he's going to keep moving. He's going to keep moving. We strangle him with our bare hands, to be honest.
Если бы только знали, где он прячется.
If we only knew where he was hiding. Дозволиш?
Можно я
Я хочу знать.
And I'm crazy about it. Well, you're all.
And John, you could hear President Biden there. He's saying he doesn't speak Ukrainian, but he wanted to be able to tell that little girl that he wanted to be able to take her home. And something when he was speaking with reporters later, when he called President Putin a butcher, he was saying that, he's always surprised by just how strong the human spirit is, and was saying, looking at these people who have had everything taken from them, including some of their family members, and just meeting with them and talking with them here and talking about how brave they are. And it's a remarkable moment, really, on this trip where the president has been focused on diplomacy. He's been focused on what they are doing for forces in Ukraine. But here, coming face to face with the refugees who have been forced to leave their homes because of this invasion.
1 in 2 Ukrainian children, we're talking half of Ukrainian children, have been displaced from the Russian invasion. And you can see President Biden there holding one in his arms. It is very emotional. These children's lives will never be the same again. Caitlin Collins, our thanks to you. I do want to read a statement from the mayor of Lviv, who did just post this on his official Twitter site. He said, quote, "The Russian army struck at Lviv. We are waiting for information from the military administration. Stay in shelters." So an official statement from the mayor of Lviv that the Russian military has struck here. That would appear to be confirmation that what we're looking at right now, that smoke billowing behind us, is from a Russian strike. I want to bring in Major General Dana Petard. He's a retired 2-star Major General, CNN military analyst. General, thank you so much for being with us. Look, we don't know what was hit behind me. What we do know is it wasn't the downtown area. What are the types of targets that the Russians have been hitting from the air?
Well, good afternoon, John. They've been hitting a number of types of targets, whether it's fuel depots, whether it's electrical plants, whether it's command and control kind of buildings. But this is going to continue until at some point, under the auspices of the United Nations or NATO, led by the United States, in coordination with President Zelensky in Ukraine, that Western Ukraine is declared a humanitarian assistance zone, or HAZ, which will require U.S. troops as well as NATO troops to enforce that on the ground in peace enforcement mission, be prepared for combat if necessary, and also a no-fly zone over Western Ukraine. This is preventable to allow the refugees and civilians to be able to depart as necessary.
General, a daylight attack near a city which is just a few miles from the Polish border, President Biden in Poland about to deliver a major address. Can that be a coincidence?
Probably not. I mean, the Russians know that many media outlets are using Lviv as a hub. And it is close to the Polish border of Ukraine. It may, in fact, be a message, but it is clear that something needs to be done with Western Ukraine, and that would be a humanitarian assistance zone, or HAZ.
And if people look at the map, they can tell. I'm in Lviv. The smoke you're seeing behind me is in Lviv, really just an hour's drive from the Polish border. What the Russian general said yesterday was that they're shifting their focus all the way to the other side of the country. All the way to the other side of the country was the claim. If that was the claim, what we're seeing behind me really seems to suggest that he wasn't being completely straight, General.
Well, again, what we're told by the Russian military is one thing, but what's happening on the ground is another. Russia never did have the force structure to be able to take over all of Ukraine, even the capital Kyiv, or even the second largest city, Kharkiv. And Russia's had some reverses. They've been surprised by the tenacity and the courageous fighting of the Ukrainians. So they've had to take a tactical and operational pause outside of Kyiv with their forces there. They're going to have to consolidate their forces in the Donbass region, continue to fight to keep that land bridge between the Donbass region and the Crimean Peninsula. But I don't think that this is over in the least at all. This war is going to take place for a while. They're waiting for reinforcements, whether it's from Belarus, whether it's from Russia, or other Russian forces from Georgia, so they can continue to attack, I believe, Kyiv and other key sites in the future.
Well, look, I can tell you it's not over. I can see it's not over behind me with the smoke billowing there. You bring up a really interesting point, though. Given that the Ukrainians now are claiming some success in their counteroffensive efforts north of Kyiv, and now today, just today, they said they launched some counteroffensive efforts in Kharkiv. It may be that the Russians just want to send a message to the world when they know that the media is in this city, as you said, to send a message that, hey, they're still here. Maybe a message not just to the West, but maybe a message to the people inside Russia as well, who may be starting to doubt the possibility of success in this mission.
And that's a possibility. Again, the fact that the Ukrainians are conducting counteroffensive operations is a good thing. But that can only last so long. They only have so many munitions, so many weapons, so many Javelin missiles, so many Stinger anti-aircraft missiles. They need assistance. And it would be very helpful to have some NATO troops helping with the humanitarian assistance zone in western Ukraine, if that is in fact declared.
Retired Major General Dana Pittard, it's an honor to get to speak to you. Thank you so much for helping us understand what we're seeing here behind us in Lviv. Appreciate it, sir. Again, what we are seeing is smoke billowing into the sky after we heard 3 blasts. The mayor of Lviv, this city, says the Russian army struck at Lviv. We're getting more information. Stay with us. Our special live coverage continues right after this.
I'm David Miliband, President and CEO of the International Rescue Committee. The IRC is a non-profit organisation that helps people whose lives are shattered by conflict since the Second World War. The IRC is on the ground in Ukraine and in Europe, supporting people on the run from the fighting. But we need your help to help them. Visit rescue.org to donate and learn more about our work.
Solutions, it's SAP. The aim of a circular economy is to eliminate waste, circulate materials, keep products in use as long as possible, and regenerate natural systems. The economy. At the moment, we're based upon an extractive system which depends upon nature but is ultimately extractive. That will only go one way. Ultimately creates abundance of opportunity, abundance of materials, abundance of resources that enable us to thrive as a species and thrive as a piece of nature and as a part of nature.
To open doors, to develop contacts, and to unlock secrets, it takes trust.
It was the first time he really came out of his shell in front of a camera.
Trust that you'll listen.
So great that you're here today. It just highlights what's making a difference.
That you'll be honest.
I don't want to pry, but what sort of conversations do you have with them?
Trust that you'll be accurate and you'll be fair.
It was an unprecedented move, very eerie, all-attack helicopter. This is what Captain Wales has been flying. As we continue to monitor the government in crisis.
That's what it's all about. Max Foster, CNN.
Make CNN your first move.
First Move with Julia Chatterley, weekdays.
Welcome back. I'm John Berman in Lviv in western Ukraine. The mayor of this city just put out a statement that reads, the Russian army struck at Lviv. We are waiting for information. Stay in shelters. We have another statement as well. This comes from the head of the regional military administration, who says there were 3 powerful explosions near Lviv. Now there's an air alarm, so keep calm and stay in shelter. We heard the 3 bangs, the 3 explosions. They came from just where you're looking right now, northeast of where I'm sitting, a couple kilometers from where we are. I don't know if it's exactly within the city or outside the city walls, but not far. Not far. We're seeing the smoke, and we are waiting for information about what was hit. In the meantime, it comes as Ukrainian officials say forces are now going on the counterattack around the capital region, around Kyiv. CNN's Frederick Pleiken reports from Kyiv, where a new curfew will kick in just a few hours.
The Ukrainian capital, Kyiv, is still very much on a war footing. We're right in the city center, and as you can see, really see throughout the entire city with a lot of checkpoints, a lot of soldiers on. You see the Maidan, of course, right in the middle of the Ukrainian capital. At the same time, though, you do get the sense here right now that the people here have been making. For instance, at a checkpoint like this one, you do see a lot more vehicle traffic than, for instance, we have been seeing over the past couple of days. There's more cars going just south.
Frederick Pleiken in the capital of Kyiv. I should also say that we have heard of people heading back to Kyiv, maybe people who've left the country, who are fled here to the west, heading back to Kyiv because they think it may be safer to go back there. We will see. We will see over the next few days. Again, you can still see the smoke rising behind me. The attack on this city in Lviv in western Ukraine comes as President Biden is just over the border in Poland, where more than 2 million refugees from Ukraine have fled. The United Nations says Russia's invasion here has displaced almost a quarter of Ukraine's population. Displaced more than a quarter of the population here in Poland. CNN's Melissa Bell is at the Polish border, where refugees, mostly women and children, are still arriving. Melissa, what are you seeing?
Well, John, this is Przemysl Station, where so many of those refugees that have moved on to Warsaw and that President Biden has just been speaking to come through. Care, aid is given, and I think it's pretty telling what is given at places like this. Basic, the big crossings into Poland, John. The other is just down the road at Medica. Little, but the stories of what they've left behind.
For a month now, they've arrived day and night at Medica by the images of what they've fled.
Where is this, Chernihiv? Chernihiv. It's
Tatiana spent more than 2 weeks getting to Medica with her niece, nephew and daughter, traveling by day and sheltering in basements at night, in fear of the sound of constant shelling. But she says worst of all, the sound of planes at night dropping bombs on the water facilities, so we don't have anything to drink.
The most scared was when the plane...
For Daria as well, it was the sound of the planes at night that scared her. Sound, she says, that forced her and her son from their first underground shelter. As a mom, she says, I was scared. My son handled it better. It's harder for the mother. And for a grandmother, perhaps hardest of all. Larissa and her house, says Elizaveta. That's it, on the 5th floor. We had a Ukrainian flag hanging on the balcony, so they targeted it. That was when the family decided to flee, heading from Irpin through other occupied towns, because even... Anyway, we can't go home now, she says, because there is no home. So, like millions of others, they head into Europe after crossing a border they never wanted to have to cross.
For their partners, their fathers, their husbands that they've had to leave behind to do the fighting. And there is, of course, as you pointed out a moment ago, the extraordinary scale of this, the sheer numbers of women and children who continue to cross these borders day and night.
Yeah, they leave their lives behind, and they often just don't know where they will go next. It is such a big decision, especially when you have so much concern for what's still happening here in Ukraine. Melissa Bell, thank you so much for that report. The breaking news here from Lviv in western Ukraine, explosions, 3 explosions. The mayor of this city says the Russian military has attacked this city. We're getting more information about what was hit. We're also waiting for President Biden, who will speak just over the border in Poland in a couple hours. Our special live coverage continues right after this.
This is CNN. More people get their news from CNN than any other news source.
You can help the refugees from Ukraine. Explore CNN.
Nonviolence means feeling oneness with all living beings. And part of that is wanting freedom for all living beings. My name is Sadhvi Sadali Shri. I'm a Jain monk and filmmaker based in Dallas, Texas. I became a Jain monk in 2008 after serving in the Iraq War. I was deployed and I experienced a lot of violence. And I experienced it emotionally and mentally when I came back going through PTSD. A couple of years ago, another monk and I were talking about sexual abuse. And we knew as monks we wanted to raise awareness about the taboo subject. We didn't know about human trafficking yet. And so when we decided to raise awareness, we wondered, what are we going to do? And we didn't have any film experience, but we knew by making films, we could educate many people. Surviving Sex Trafficking is my second film, and we wanted to follow the journey of healing of the survivors featured in the film. So we traveled around the world and also within the United States. And it was important to us to know their journey and to see if they can truly heal. Is there hope?
On this month's Living Golf, preview the upcoming Masters. Hear from the 2020 champion and former world #1, Dustin Johnson.
For me, growing up as a kid, everything about Augusta is special.
Plus, journey across Ireland for a look at courses designed by iconic architect Dr. Alistair Mackenzie.
Join me, Shane O'Donoghue, for this month's Living Golf.
Only on CNN. In association with Golf Saudi.
Business is all about making connections. But some connections are easier to make than others. With a CNN partner hotel, the world is always at your fingertips. CNN partner hotels, connected to your world.
This is the result of one country.
You don't have to go far to find a family who has been displaced.
We're just returning here. In Kiev, Dnipro,
Poland. This is CNN.
I'm Vedika Sood in New Delhi, and this is CNN.
Welcome back. I'm John Berman in Lviv in western Ukraine, where the smoke continues to rise behind me, northeast of central Lviv, this city of some 800,000 people in the western part of this country. The mayor here put out a statement that says the Russian military has struck Lviv. I want to play for you the moment when we heard 3 explosions. What you'll see is a camera on this site right here. You won't see the smoke yet, but if you listen carefully, you will hear 3 blasts. Let's listen. So you could hear those 3 blasts. It followed an air raid siren, an air raid warning here. So the people in the city did have warning to go seek shelter before the blasts themselves. And then a few minutes after we heard those explosions, we did see the smoke beginning to rise. We're waiting for confirmation about what was struck. It doesn't appear to be in the downtown area. It doesn't appear to be, I should say. But we're waiting to figure out what exactly the targets were. We'll bring you that information absolutely as soon as we get it. The humanitarian crisis in Europe, as millions flee this country, is growing greater by the day. The United Nations says more than 3.7 million people have now in desperate need And that's where our next and LeBlanc. They're serving thousands of meals to refugees in Romania. Thank you so much for being with us this morning. Look, it's truly amazing what a hot meal can do to help people through something like this. What kinds of things are you providing?
Into Kyiv, even as we can, as quick as we can over the last 3 weeks.
Mercy Chefs began after the devastation that we all saw during Hurricane Katrina. You know, how did you branch out into going to places worldwide?
Well, you answer the call. You find the need and you meet the need, and you do whatever you have to do to get the job done. So our first overseas trip was after the Haiti earthquake. And we just began to see that there is a space for us to fill as we move quickly and as we move to the forefront of the need.
You've been on the ground, as you said, about a month now. What have been some of the unique challenges of this crisis?
Well, we find that there's a little bit of a language barrier, so we've had to find folks that could decipher our list. We're trying to make sure we have complete meal boxes that go in and supply. You know, we can't reach everyone with a hot meal, but they're able to cook for themselves. So these supplies in and finding the right products to send. So it's been amazing to get a million pounds of food.
Barrier. I mean, you speak English, you're in Romania, and you're helping Ukrainians, so a lot of different languages at play there.
Right.
When you do get a chance to communicate with the people and the refugees and the
heartbreaking when you look into a mom's eyes who has come, you know, they've left their city, they've left their home, they have a suitcase, and you watch their children clutching their one, and then they come across not knowing what to expect. There are many that are right across the border in southern Ukraine, and so there are multiple refugee centers there that we're helping. But the moms just talk about they're so thankful to be safe and how the Romanian people have reached out and made them feel welcome and have helped them move on to other parts of Europe where they have jobs and housing and those types of things. So the hospitality has been second to none.
Gary and Anne LeBlanc, really, from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank you for the work you're doing. I know it's so appreciated here. There is so much need, and it's because of people like you that these millions of people are finding some of the love that they'll need to get through these coming days. So thank you.
Thank you, and you stay safe.
I want to bring people... I will, I promise. Just to bring people up to speed on what is happening here, we did hear 3 explosions in Lviv in western Ukraine, where I am, this city, which has been bustling. This has been the city where people have been coming to safety from the rest of the country. You know, you walk through the city this morning, we saw booksellers on the streets. We saw, you know, people out for long walks getting coffee in open markets. I even saw a wedding party taking pictures outdoors, and then hours later from that, you see this. Smoke rising to the sky, 3 explosions. We're waiting for details as to what was hit. We're also waiting for what is being billed as a major speech by President Biden. Notable that this strike in Lviv is very close to the Polish border. President Biden is in Poland, in Warsaw, for what the White House is calling a major speech there. He's already met with refugees, an emotional meeting with Ukrainian refugees there. We're going to bring you that speech live. A lot going on. CNN special live coverage continues. Stay with us.
It is actually very complicated to move money around the world. Few companies can do it at scale. Few companies can do it in the number of countries that we do it. And so these companies that come together, like MoneyGrams and like our competitors, do really provide a very unique service, and that is to instantly move money, get funds from the United States to Mexico, literally in sub-seconds. For the ability to take $350 that you worked hard to earn and get it back to your mother so that she can pick it up in Mexico, use it for food, healthcare, housing, is actually a very unique service. If you're from many of the countries, Mexico, the lives of the consumers in those countries. But many people don't appreciate that. If it's not the life that you live, then it's not something that you really ever really get involved in.
It's not just for sweetening your tea or drizzling on top of toast. Honey might just have some health benefits too. One clinical trial from back in 2010 found that a half teaspoon of honey did a better job than common cold syrups at easing nighttime coughs in young kids with upper respiratory infections. But be careful, honey should not be given to children under 1 year old. Some case studies show that honey has honey when they harvest naturally acidic, so voila, you have a recipe for antimicrobial properties. More research is needed and affect your blood sugar levels, so remember to enjoy in moderation.
Connect the world with Becky Anderson.
Shapes our world, getting perspective on this region from this region. Places here, bringing you the world from our Middle Eastern hub.
Connect the world with Becky Anderson, Monday through Friday on CNN.
Russian invasion, and that includes one of the country's premier fashion brands. Milanova is known for making stunning bridal gear the battlefield. The company is supplying soldiers and medical workers with much needed. CEO of Milanova, Uliana Kirchuk. Ilyana, so good to see you. There you are in Warsaw, but home is Lviv. And that's exactly the city where today, at this hour, we're watching this billowing black smoke. And the Ukrainian military confirms that that is the result of some Russian strikes. You still have family and friends there in Lviv. So tell me what you're thinking and feeling right now as you're looking at this smoke coming from your home.
Actually, I can. That's kind of the most difficult interview in my life, because just 30 minutes ago, I have heard that my city was bombed, and thanks God, I have managed prior to this interview to call my mom and just to check on her if she's okay. So she's fine. But you know, this city is my heart, and everything I have is there. So it's quite emotional, and I'm feeling like I'm ready to do everything I can to stop this war, because it's impossible to have this feeling on a daily basis. Honestly saying, last period of time, I cannot feel the difference between feeling about Mariupol or Kiev or Lviv. So I'm feeling all of those cities the same, because that's my country. But you know, when you know that you have left all you have there, so the biggest wish is to jump into the car and to go back. So.
And Uliana, I'm so happy that you did reach your mom and your mother, and she seems to be okay. At the same time, does hope in a way keep slipping away from you that you are going to get a chance to go back to Lviv, Ukraine, as this, these assaults now get closer and closer to home? Or do you still feel very confident that you will get a chance and your fellow Ukrainians will find home there again?
Honestly saying, I don't have any other opinion, so that's what I'm looking forward the most, to go back home. I have been home a week ago, so now I'm living like for two places, partially for Lviv, partially for Warsaw, because as you may know, we have relocated part of our team of Milanova here to Warsaw, so I'm trying to restore the processes, the business process, to be able to provide the job for the people and to ensure that they will have tomorrow and they will be paid in these months and coming months. Ensure that what we are doing for what we have promised to our customers will be done. But I have just back from Lviv last weekend, so it's just and I was planning to go there in coming days. So
oh my goodness. So, Ulyana, tell me about your business. Here you are a fashion designer of one of the more joyful parts of your life, of any woman's life, making beautiful bridal dresses. And now you all have shifted and you're making garments for battle. What is it that you are creating, and how is it you have been able to do that? And who is involved in creating these items?
Actually, we took this decision from the first day of the war. So we had a BCP plan for people relocation, and part of management team has decided to manage this relocation BCP, like implementation of BCP plan for army. So actually, we just a few people have just jumped to the supermarkets to buy materials, and we have started from military nets. And then we were starting to get a lot of requests from territory defenders, from army, from hospitals to help them with the things they need. And we cannot do super special things because we don't need a professional equipment for that. But we are doing the best what we can do because we have a super professional team. And we have got like skis. We have made all of that overnight, and the people were so inspired and so motivated to join this project that we had no question from no one that we should do that.
It looks like we're looking at some video of maybe vests that are created to hold armor and supplies in these images. And we're to Ukraine and left their brothers, sons, husbands in Ukraine to fight.
Yeah, actually, that's the people, but we have to ensure the security. At least, we have to ensure the security of children because we have relocated the people with the children together, and we are trying to restore work to help the people like to get money and also to pay those who remain in the Lviv. So that's like the idea.
Ulyana Kirchuk, I wish you and your family the best and do hope that you do ultimately get a chance to return back to your home of Ukraine safely and resume your life. You don't.
We will do for sure.
You won't. So you do not feel like you'll ever be able to return home?
No, we are just counting days and hours to get back. So home is home, Our country has no place today to feel secure at all. Neither for kids, for women, for nobody. But that's only wish all of us have to return back home.
All right. Ulyana, wishing you the best. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
For more information about how you can help humanitarian efforts in Ukraine, go to cnn.com/impact.
We are by accelerating trade further and transform together. We're bringing Africa together. Afreximbank, transforming Africa's trade.
the Second World War, much of the German watchmaking industry was centered in Saxony. One of the most important brands there was A. Lange & Söhne, known for the supreme excellence of its watches. After the war, Saxony became part of communist East Germany. Lange as a company disappeared when the communists bundled together all of the watch companies in the town. But Walter Lange, the great-grandson of the founders, escaped to the West. In 1990, after the Iron Curtain collapsed, Walter Lange returned to the town and revived the company. A huge task, but he succeeded. But what always hits me about this watch is the dial. The dial of a watch is not a big space, so when you try to arrange the elements on it asymmetrically, you are playing with design fire. But Lange succeeds brilliantly.
So many questions about what is the federal government doing. Do you get the anger that is out here? How concerned are you about the front line? You don't believe that there's a racial divide here? Looking back, as president, did you tell the story of race in America enough, do you think?
All the places I've been, what I do right here, holding the powerful accountable, keeping them honest.
AC 360, Tuesday through Saturday only on CNN. In a special ongoing season of the Tug of War podcast, CNN reporters are on the ground of the world. Tug of War. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
I'm Sam Abdulaziz in Lviv, Ukraine, and this is CNN.
Our mission here at CNN, the news comes first. You really work as hard as you can getting the facts. It is critically important.
To our viewers in the United States and around the world, welcome to the Situation Room. We have breaking news.
Welcome back. I'm John Berman in Lviv in western Ukraine, just an hour's drive from the Polish border. President Biden speaking over that Polish border very shortly in what the White House is calling a major address. And as that's happening in broad daylight, you can see behind me smoke rising, 3 explosions. The mayor of Lviv says the Russian military has struck his city. 3 blasts. We're waiting for information to find out what was hit, but the smoke still very much rising, many minutes, about an hour after we first heard the explosion. So fires must be burning fairly fiercely at that point. Again, we are waiting for more information, and we'll bring it to you as soon as it comes in. Since the war began now over 1 month ago, a full half of Ukraine's children have been forced to leave their homes. That's according to UNICEF. Every day there is more destruction, more devastation, more suffering from Russian attack. The destruction left after weeks of Russian shelling. He was forced from his home at gunpoint and barely escaped the city with an explosion that injured him and took
a yellow explosion, sound in ears, and I just remember I woke up in road, I see the broken car, and I see my mother going in fire. My mother was ще була жива тоді, коли горіла.
My mother was still alive while she was on fire.
Я почав повзти з дороги.
I started crawling away from the road, and then I felt a pain in my left clavicle.
Yeah, I have broken. I feel blood in my left ear. Then I hear shooting, not from weapons, rockets or something, and I climb to stairs and hide here. I screaming one time for 2 minutes or 3. It was very cold. I just be in socks.
You can't walk.
Can't walk. And some peoples in village hear the explosion, and these people take us to his house. Накрили нас ковдрами.
They wrapped us in blankets.
And your mother during this?
Загинула, вона на місці загинула, вона згоріла, що вона...
She died at that location, and she was still alive when she got the fire, when my clothes got the fire, and she just burned.
When doctors drive me about the hospital, I looking for some people from territorial defense or police to find my father.
You and your father, are you okay in your hearts?
Father is hard. You understand, your wife is dead, and you look to your son. I can't stand up without. You understand. I think до мене ще повністю не дійшло.
And myself, I think I haven't realized everything to its full extent.
What do you want the world to know about your mother?
Що б ти хотів, щоб світ дізнався про...
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
Співчуваю, справді.
Excuse me. Thank you. Хочу знати, що мама була дуже...
I want them to know that my mother was a very beautiful woman.
І любила чистоту і порядок.
She always liked things to be tidy and clean, and my father and I, we always supported, we understood that and supported her. And right now it's very difficult without mother.
She has a beautiful and brave son.
Має дуже красивого і дуже хороброго сина.
And I'm so sorry you've gone through this.
His mother would be so proud. He is so brave, and he is getting through this. He is recovering in the hospital. He's playing music again. He loves to play the guitar, and he couldn't hear at first after the explosions, but he is now hearing well enough to play the guitar, which he did play for us. But I just can't imagine what he went through. I can't imagine what he went through, what he saw, telling us that when he left his mother, when he last saw his mother, she was alive, but on fire. Andre says he plans to return to his hometown once this is over. And when you think of Andre, remember, he's not the only child who's gone through this. He's not the only person here that's suffering. We'll be right back.
There were those who said it was a dream. And yet independent peace is a reality, because here medicine, food and garments for the world are made. For the year of the Golden Jubilee celebration of independence, the dream has never been more real, because dreams are made in Bangladesh.
Out front tonight, a potential breakthrough in treating coronavirus.
We've gotten very little help from the federal government.
Could all this spending lead to a bigger economic crisis? One of our viewers saw you last night on the show. She says she's going to pay your rent this month. Shut up. I want to go now to an incredible story of survival. Would you do it all again in terms of being a nurse, knowing that that could put you at risk for this?
I want to help people more than I ever have.
Aaron Burnett out front on CNN.
is CNN.
Thank you so much for joining me for this special CNN coverage. I'm Frederica Whitfield in Atlanta, but however, I want to go straight to Warsaw, Poland, and my colleague Wolf Blitzer is there for this highly anticipated major speech coming from the President of the United States, Wolf, while there in Poland, wrapping up his trip to Europe.
Thanks very much. Fred, this is going to be not just a major speech from the President of the United States, a very significant speech wrapping up what's going on from the U.S. perspective involving the war in Ukraine, but it's going to be a rather lengthy speech, could go as long as 35 or even 45 minutes, we're told, by White House officials. We have a team of correspondents covering this truly historic moment here in Poland. With me right now is Caitlin Collins. She's our chief White House correspondent. Caitlin, you and I have been talking about this for a while. Finally, after the President of the United States has met with the Polish leadership, some of the Ukrainian leadership, not President Zelensky, but his defense minister, his minister of foreign affairs here in Poland, we're going to hear the latest from the President on where this war stands from the U.S. perspective.
Yeah, what we're told is really this speech from President Biden in a few moments is going to be kind of a culmination of this entire trip, which has had so many different aspects to it, all obviously with this centered around this invasion of Ukraine and the response to it. And it started out meeting with world leaders and talking about what they are going to do to respond to it. It ended today with him going to a nearby soccer stadium where they are processing these Ukrainian refugees here in Warsaw. And the president had some really personal experiences with a lot of the families there who have been separated from their husbands, from their fathers, from brothers and uncles, and of course have come here with very little in their possession. And President Biden earlier was speaking to reporters, Wolf, after his view or how it made him think about his view of President Putin.
You know, you're dealing every day with Vladimir Putin. I mean, look at what he's done to these people. What does it make you think? He's a butcher.
Pretty remarkable. You know, this is now President Biden has called Putin a killer. He's called him a war criminal. He's called him a pure thug. And now today, after meeting with the Ukrainians that Putin has pushed from their homes, he referred to him as a butcher. And I think it just really sums up this experience for President Biden coming here and talking about the efforts to punish Putin, to isolate him, and meeting with the people that he's pushed out of their homes.
Dictator the other day as well. He's branded him all these horrible, horrible names. It's hard to believe there's ever going to be another summit between these two leaders. We were there in Geneva last June when there was the Putin-Biden summit. I suspect that's not going to happen. And as you know...
Biden by himself, that's a summit that has 20 nations in it, the world's leading economies. Indonesia is the chair this year, and they've actually not condemned Putin so far, and they've said that they don't believe the sanctions would be helped with the invasion of Ukraine. And so if he is still there and President Biden is also there, it will make for this interesting moment when they are set to go to Indonesia later this year. Though President Biden did say if Putin is still invited, if Russia is still allowed.
The president is about to deliver what the White House calls a major speech over here, not too far from where we are at the Royal Castle here in Warsaw. Phil Mattingly is already on the scene for us. First of all, Phil, explain the significance of this location. Why did they decide to pick the Royal Castle?
You know, Wolf, it's interesting. The White House is not trying to lessen expectations for these remarks, as Caitlin detailed, calling it major, calling it significant. And any time there is a moment like that, the backdrop they choose is intentional. And the decision to pick the Royal Castle, I think it'll be interesting to see how the president weaves and ties it into the history of this building, this kind of symbol of the Polish nation, and perhaps most importantly, the symbol of the ability to rebuild. This castle, which is so critical here in Warsaw, was damaged terribly in 1939 by Nazi artillery and bombings, and it was completely demolished and torn to the ground in 1944 towards the end of the Warsaw Uprising. In the 30 years after that moment, it really wasn't rebuilt at all. The communist ruling party in the Soviet Union showed no desire to rebuild it. And yet, here it is, in full, rebuilt entirely, in large part because of donations from friends and allies, Polish immigrants across the world. And it is back and completely reformed. And as it was being destroyed by Nazi Germany back in the 1939 through 1944 period, Wolf, a number of the most important artifacts and historical items that needed to be preserved were actually snuck out and preserved, left at countries that now serve as Poland's allies. So I think that'll be a key moment and a key...
White House has a major address. We're going to get the latest from the President of the United States. Amidst all of this, there's been a horrible situation in the West this, I see that reporters have already gathered. Looks like Don Lemon is already there. At least safe area in Ukraine where you are.
All right, Wolf, I'll take this, and then I'm going to bring Don in as soon as I can. Don, do me a favor, nod if you can hear us. All right, we're going to wait to get Don shot up here, but let me tell you what happened. 3 fairly loud bangs, and then we saw smoke rising from this hill behind me. The mayor confirmed that there was a Russian military strike there, and now we do have, you can see Don Lemon on the scene with the fire there raging behind him. Let me just check. Don, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me? I can hear you.
Yes. Okay, Don.
Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you.
Don, we were in the same place where you were when those air raid sirens went off just about an hour ago, and you know they've been going on the city about a 10-minute drive from where we are from down. They said that there are some tanks here, and they are filled with diesel and other back away from, as safely as we can be away from the scene here. But this was in the west, I believe. This is in the north. That was hit last week with that scene here, John. Multiple fire departments from their homes just a short time ago. They're on the streets here. Some of them leaving. We've been trying to talk to them, but again, you see the raging flames in the air, and it has been going now since those strikes happened a short time ago. So again, according to the mayor, who put it out on Twitter, they are probably some type of missile strike. But again, that is what is happening. If you can hear it, there's rumbling. And the burn range on here on the air.